Few touches, the very crisis of physical or mental struggle. And sometimes again we catch glimpses of a lyric strain, sustained perhaps for but a line or two at a time, and making the reader regret its sudden cessation. But the main quality of these poems is that of extraordinary grasp and insight, uttered with an uneven vigor, sometimes exasperating, seemingly wayward, but really unsought and inevitable. After all, when a thought takes one's breath away, a lesson on grammar seems an impertinence. As Ruskin wrote in his earlier and better days, no weight nor mass nor beauty of execution can outweigh one grain or fragment of thought. Thomas Wentworth Higginson. This is my letter to the world that never wrote to me, the simple news that nature told with tender majesty. Her message is committed to hands I cannot see, for love of her, sweet countrymen, judge tenderly of me. 1. Life. 1. Success. Published in a Mask of Poets at the request of H.H., the author's fellow townsman, and success is counted sweetest by those who ne'er succeed. To comprehend a nectar requires sorest need. Not one of all the purple host who took today can tell the definition so clear of victory as he, defeated, dying, on whose forbidden ear the distant strains of triumph break, agonized and clear. 2. Our share of night to bear, share of morning, our blank in bliss to fill, our blank in scorning. And there a star, some lose sight, here and there, afterwards, day. 3. Rouge et noir. Soul, wilt thou toss again, by just hazard, have lost indeed, but tens have won and all. Angels' breathless ballad linger to record thee, imps in eager caucus, raffle. 4. Rouge gauge, 'tis joy, 'tis so much I should fail, and yet as poor as thou on a throw, gained, yes, hesitated so, this side the victory. Life is but life, and death but death, bliss is but bliss, and breath but breath. And if indeed I fail, at least I know the worst is sweet, means nothing but defeat, no drearier can prevail. And if I gain, oh, gun at sea, oh, bells that in the steeples be, at first repeat it slow, for heaven is a different thing conjectured, and waked sudden in, and might o'erwhelm me so. 5. Glee! The great storm is over. 4 have recovered the land, 40 gone down together into the boiling sand. Ring for the scant salvation, toll for the bonny souls, neighbor and friend and bridegroom spinning upon the shoals. How they will tell the shipwreck when winter shakes the door, till the children ask, but the 40, did they come back no more? Then a silence suffuses the story, and a softness the teller's eye, and the children no further question, and only the waves reply. 6. If I can stop one heart from breaking, I shall not live in vain. If I can ease one life the aching, or cool one pain, or help one fainting robin unto his nest again, I shall not live in vain. 7. Almost. Within my reach, I could have touched, I might have chanced that way. Soft sauntered through the village, sauntered as soft away, so unsuspected violets within the fields lie low, too late for striving fingers that passed an hour ago. 8. A wounded deer leaps highest, I've heard the hunter tell. 'Tis but the ecstasy of death, and then the break is still. The smitten rock that gushes, the trampled steel that springs, a cheek is always redder just when the hectic stings. Mirth is the mail of anguish, in which it cautions arm, lest anybody spy the blood, and "You're hurt!" exclaim. 9. The heart asks pleasure first, and then excuse from pain, and then those little anodynes that deaden suffering, and then go to sleep, and then, if it should be the will of its inquisitor, the liberty to die. 10. In a library. A precious mouldering pleasure 'tis to meet an antique book, in just the dress his century wore, a privilege, I think, his venerable hand to take, and warming in our own, a passage back or two to make to times when he was young, his quaint opinions to inspect, his knowledge to unfold, on what concerns our mutual mind, the literature of old. What interested scholars most, what competitions ran, when Plato was a certainty and Sophocles a man. when Sappho was a living girl and Beatrice wore the gown that Dante defied. Facts centuries before, he traverses familiar, as one should come to town and tell you all your dreams were true. He lived where dreams were sown. His presence is enchantment. You beg him not to go. Old volumes shake their vellum heads and tantalize just so. 11. Much madness is divinest sense to a discerning eye. Much sense the starkest madness. 'Tis the majority in this as all prevails. Assent and you are sane. Demur, you're straightway dangerous and handled with a chain. 12. I asked no other thing, no other was denied. I offered being for it, the mighty merchant smiled. Brazil, he twirled a button, without a glance my way. But madam, is there nothing else that we can show today? 13. Exclusion. The soul selects her own society, then shuts the door. On her divine majority obtrude no more. Unmoved she notes the chariots pausing at her low gate. Unmoved an emperor is kneeling upon her mat. I've known her from an ample nation, choose one. Then close the valves of her attention, like stone. 14. The secret. Some things that fly, there be birds, owls, and bumblebee. Of these no elegy. Some things that stay, there be grief, hills, eternity. Nor this behoveth me. There are that resting, rise. Can I expound the skies? How still the riddle lies. 15. The lonely house. I know some lonely houses off the road a robber'd like the look of, wooden barred and windows hanging low, inviting to a portico, where two could creep, one hand the tools, the other peep, to make sure all's asleep, old-fashioned eyes, not easy to surprise. How orderly the kitchen'd look by night, with just a clock, but they could gag the tick and mice won't bark, and so the walls don't tell, none will. A pair of spectacles ajar just stir, an almanac's aware. Was it the mat winked, or a nervous star? The moon slides down the stair to see who's there. There's plunder. Where? Tankard or spoon, earring or stone, a watch, some ancient brooch, to match the grandmamma stayed sleeping there. Day rattles too, stealth slow. The sun has got as far as the third sycamore. Screams Chanticleer, who's there? And echoes, trains away, sneer. Where? While the old couple just astir, fancy the sunrise, left the door ajar. 16. To fight aloud is very brave, but gallanter I know, who charge within the bosom the cavalry of woe, who win and nations do not see, who fall and none observe, whose dying eyes no country regards with patriot love. We trust in plumed procession, for such the angels go, rank after rank with even feet and uniforms of snow. 17. Dawn. When night is almost done and sunrise grows so near that we can touch the spaces, it's time to smooth the hair and get the dimples ready and wonder we could care for that old faded midnight that frightened but an hour. 18. The Book of Martyrs. Read sweet how others strove till we are stouter, what they renounced till we are less afraid, how many times they bore the faithful witness till we are helped, and if a kingdom cared. Read then of faith that shone above the faggot, clear strains of hymn the river could not drown, brave names of men and celestial women passed out of record into renown. 19. The mystery of pain. Pain has an element of blank. It cannot recollect when it began, or if there were a day when it was not. It has no future but itself. Its infinite realms contain its past, enlightened to perceive new periods of pain. 20. I taste a liquor never brewed, from tankards scooped in pearl. Not all the vats upon the Rhine yield such an alcohol. Inebriate of air am I, and debauchee of dew, reeling through endless summer days from inns of molten blue. When landlords turn the drunken bee out of the foxglove's door, when butterflies renounce their drams, I shall but drink the more, till seraphs swing their snowy hats and saints to windows run, to see the little tippler leaning against the sun. 21. A book. He ate and drank the precious words, His spirit grew robust. He knew no more that he was poor, nor that his frame was dust. He danced along the dingy days, and this bequest of wings was but a book, what liberty a loosened spirit brings. 22. I had no time to hate, because the grave would hinder me, and life was not so ample I could finish enmity. Nor had I time to love, but since some industry must be, the little toil of love, I thought, was large enough for me. 23. Unreturning. 'Twas such a little boat that toddled down the bay. 'Twas such a gallant sea that beckoned it away. 'Twas such a greedy wave that licked it from the coast. Nor ever guessed the stately sails, my little craft was lost. 24. Whether my bark went down at sea, whether she met with gales, whether to isles enchanted she bent her docile sails, by what mystic mooring she is held today, this is the errand of the eye out upon the bay. 25. Belshazzar had a letter. He never had but one. Belshazzar's correspondent concluded and begun. In that immortal copy, the conscience of us all can read without its glasses on Revelation's wall. 26. The brain within its groove runs evenly and true, but let the splinter swerve, 'twere easier for you to put the water back when floods have slit the hills and scooped a turnpike for themselves and bottled out the mills. 2. Love. 1. Mine. Mine by the right of the white election, mine by the royal seal, mine by the sign in the scarlet prison, bars cannot conceal, mine here in vision and in veto, mine by the grave's repeal, titled confirmed delirious charter, mine while the ages steal. 2. Bequest. You left me, sweet, two legacies, a legacy of love, a heavenly Father would content had he the offer of. You left me the boundaries of pain and capacious as the sea, between eternity and time, your consciousness and me. 3. Altar, when the hills do. Falter, when the sun question of his glory be the perfect one. Surfeit, when the daffodil doth of the dew, even as herself, O friend, I will of you. 4. Suspense. Elysium is as far as to the very nearest room, if in that room a friend await felicity or doom. What fortitude the soul contains, that it can so endure the accent of a coming foot, the opening of a door. 5. Surrender. Doubt me, my dim companion, why God would be content with but a fraction of the love poured thee without a stint. The whole of me forever, what more the woman can, say quick that I may dower thee with last delight I own. It cannot be my spirit, for that was thine before. I ceded all of dust I knew, what opulence the more. Had I a humble maiden, whose farthest of degree was that she might, some distant heaven, dwell timidly with thee. 6. If you were coming in the fall, I'd brush the summer by, with half a smile and half a spurn, as housewives do a fly. If I could see you in a year, I'd wind the months in balls, and put them each in separate drawers until their time befalls. If only centuries delayed, I'd count them on my hand, subtracting till my fingers dropped into Van Diemen's land. If certain when this life was out, that yours and mine should be, I'd toss in yonder like a rind and taste eternity. But now all ignorant of the length of time's uncertain wing, it goads me like the goblin bee that will not state its sting. 7. With a flower. I hide myself within my flower, that wearing on your breast, you unsuspecting wear me too, and angels know the rest. I hide myself within my flower, that fading from your vase, you unsuspecting feel for me almost a loneliness. 8. Proof. That I did always love, I bring thee proof. That till I loved, I did not love enough. That I shall love alway, I offer thee, that love is life, and life hath immortality. This dost thou doubt, sweet? Then have I nothing to show but Calvary. 9. Have you got a brook in your little heart, where bashful flowers blow, and blushing birds go down to drink, and shadows tremble so? And nobody knows, so still it flows, that any brook is there, and yet your little draught of life is daily drunken there. Then look out for the little brook in March, when the rivers overflow, and the snow come hurrying from the hills, and the bridges often go. And later in August it may be, when the meadows parching lie, beware lest this little brook of life some burning noon go dry. 10. Transplanted. As if some little arctic flower upon the polar hem went wandering down the latitudes until it puzzled came to continents of summer, to firmaments of sun, to strange bright crowds of flowers, and birds of foreign tongue. I say, as if this little flower to Eden wandered in, what then? Why nothing, only your inference therefrom. 11. The outlet. My river runs to thee. Blue sea, wilt welcome me? My river waits reply. O sea, look graciously. I'll fetch thee brooks from spotted nooks. Say, sea, take me. 12. In vain. I cannot live with you. It would be life, and life is over there behind the shelf. The sexton keeps the key too, putting up our life, his porcelain like a cup, discarded of the housewife, quaint or broken, and new or savors pleases, old ones crack. I could not die with you, for one must wait to shut the other's gaze down. You could not. And could I stand by and see you freeze, without my right of frost, death's privilege? Nor could I rise with you, because your face would put out Jesus, that new grace glow plain and foreign on my homesick eye, except that you than he shone closer by. They judge us. How? For you serve heaven, you know, or sought to. I could not, because you saturated sight, and I had no more eyes for sordid excellence as paradise. And were you lost, I would be, though my name rang loudest on the heavenly fame. And were you saved, and I condemned to be where you were not, that self were hell to me. So we must keep apart, you there, I here, with just the door ajar. That oceans are, and prayer, and that pale sustenance, despair. 13. Renunciation. There came a day at summer's full entirely for me. I thought that such were for the saints where revelations be. The sun as common went abroad, the flowers accustomed blew, as if no soul the solstice passed that maketh all things new. The time was scarce profaned by speech, the symbol of a word was needless, as at sacrament the wardrobe of our Lord. Each was to each the sealed church, permitted to commune this time, lest we too awkward show at supper of the Lamb. The hours slid fast, as hours will, clutched tight by greedy hands, so faces on two decks look back, bound to opposing lands. And so when all the time had failed, without external sound, each bound the other's crucifix, we gave no other bond. Sufficient troth that we shall rise, deposed at length the grave, to that new marriage justified through Calvaries of love. 14. Love's baptism. I'm seated. I've stopped being theirs. The name they dropped upon my face with water in the country church is finished using now, and they can put it with my dolls, my childhood, and the string of spools I've finished threading too. Baptized before without the choice, but this time consciously, of grace unto supremest name, called to my full the crescent dropped, existence whole are filled up with one small diadem. My second rank too small the first, crowned crowing on my father's breast, a half unconscious queen, but this time adequate, erect, with will to choose or to reject, and I choose, just a throne. 15. Resurrection. 'Twas a long parting, but the time for interview had come, before the judgment seat of God the last and second time. These fleshless lovers met, a heaven in a gaze, a heaven of heavens, the privilege of one another's eyes. No lifetime set on them, apparelled as the new, unborn, except they had beheld, born everlasting now. Was bridal air like this, a paradise, the host, and cherubim and seraphim, the most familiar guest. 16. Apocalypse. I'm wife. I've finished that other state. I'm czar. I'm woman now. It's safer so. How odd the girl's life looks behind this soft eclipse. I think that earth seems so to those in heaven now. This being comfort, then that other kind was pain. But why compare? I'm wife. Stop there. 17. The wife. She rose to his retirement, dropped the playthings of her life to take the honorable work of woman and of wife. If aught she missed in her new day of amplitude or awe, or first perspective, or the gold in using wore away, it lay unmentioned as the seed develops pearl and weed, but only to himself is known the fathoms they abide. 18. Apotheosis. Come slowly, Eden, lips unused to thee, bashful sip thy jasmines as the fainting bee, reaching late his flower, round her chamber hums, counts his nectars, enters, and is lost in balms. 3. Nature. New feet within my garden go, new fingers stir the sod. A troubadour upon the elm betrays the solitude. New children play upon the green, new weary sleep below, and still the pensive spring returns, and still the punctual snow. 2. Mayflower. Pink, small, and punctual, aromatic, low, covert in April, candid in May, dear to the moss, known by the knoll, next to the robin and every human soul. Old little beauty, bedecked with thee, nature forswears antiquity. 3. Why? The murmur of a bee, a witchcraft yieldeth me. If any ask me why, 'twere easier to die than tell. The red upon the hill taketh away my will. If anybody sneer, take care, for God is here. That's all. The breaking of the day addeth to my degree. If any ask me how, artist who drew me so must tell. 4. Perhaps you'd like to buy a flower, but I could never sell. If you would like to borrow until the daffodil unties her yellow bonnet beneath the village door, until the bees from clover rows their hawk and sherry draw, why, I will lend until just then, but not an hour more.